In this video, you'll get from 0 to hero on Ollama and using AI on your local machine, whether you're on Mac or Windows or on Linux. I'm Matt Williams, and I was a founding member of the Ollama team until earlier this year. Now I am 100% focused on building great content, getting you up to speed on how to use everything in the project. I may go pretty quickly in this video to get everything into a reasonable amount of time, but hey, it's YouTube. So you can pause, go back, or skip ahead at any point. And if you have any questions, you can either comment below or join us on the Discord at discord.gg/Ollama. Okay, so before we install Ollama, let's make sure you have the hardware required. Ollama is going to need either Mac OS on Apple Silicon or a Linux distro based on systemd, such as Ubuntu or Debian, or Microsoft Windows. You may be able to get it working on Mac OS on Intel or on a non-systemd distro, but it won't be supported by the Ollama team. You can get help on the Discord, but you're a bit on your own there. And to have the best experience on Linux or Windows, you need a recent GPU from NVIDIA or AMD. Apple Silicon includes the GPU, so you don't have to worry about that there. You may be tempted by some of the cheap Kepler NVIDIA cards on eBay, but they're not going to work with Ollama. They're just too slow. Basically, your card needs a compute capability of 5 or higher. There are similar requirements for AMD cards. Here is a list of NVIDIA cards currently supported. And here are the AMD cards currently supported. Ollama can also use CPU only if you don't have a GPU, but performance is going to be annoyingly slow. Now, make sure you have the drivers for your GPU installed. For NVIDIA, that means CUDA, and for AMD, that means ROCm. So with that out of the way, let's get it installed. First, go to ollama.com in your web browser. Click the download button and go to your OS. Mac and Windows will have an installer, and Linux has an install script to run. Run the install, and at the other end, it's going to be roughly the same on all platforms. I have another video just on the installation process on all the platforms that you can watch here. The process is pretty transparent, and there isn't a whole lot going on here other than copying a file and setting up a service. So now there is a service running in the background. That service is what actually runs all the processes for Ollama. And then there's a client. That client is a command line client. For some, this might feel a little scary, but it doesn't have to be. There are plenty of UIs out there as well, but the process for using them is the same as the CLI. You type in the text you want to send to the model, and you press enter. Then you see the results show up as text. That's the same as what you do in the CLI. So try it out. Once you get used to it, you may never want to go back to any of the slower GUIs. The first step with Ollama is to get a model. There are a lot of models out there. You could go with the original that came out just as Ollama started. That's Llama 2 from Meta. A more recent one is Gemma from Google. Mistral and Mixtral are also pretty popular. For this one, let's start with Mistral. So you can download the model using the command Ollama pull Mistral. That's going to pull the 7 billion parameter version of Mistral from the Mistral AI team. It actually pulls the files from the library at ollama.com. That may take a few minutes, so while we wait, visit ollama.com/library in your browser. This is the list of models available. They're listed by featured, but you can choose to sort by most popular or by most recent as well. Click on Mistral. That's the one with the S and not the one with an X. Every model shows a short description and then some info about the latest tag. Latest is a unfortunate name here, since it's not actually the latest, but rather the most common variant. We can see the model family, the number of parameters, the quantization, and depending on the model, we may see parameters, a template, a system prompt, a license, and maybe more. Each of these things are the layers of the model. Ollama is a little different than lots of other tools because it considers a model to be everything you need to start using the model. Most other tools think a model is just the weights file of the model, which is the really big file. If you don't want to go all in on Ollama right now and be able to use some of the Ollama models in other tools, take a look at this video that'll allow you to sync the model weights with those other tools. This tool takes all the files that have those strange names in the .ollama/models/blobs directory and attaches sensible names to them. To learn more about those crazy names and why Ollama does what it does, check out this video. Above the table on this page is a number next to the word tags. Click on that. These are all the tags that represent variants of the model. They're all Mistral in this case, but they're different sizes, fine-tuned different ways, etc. Notice under each one is a hash value. For latest, you can see that it is the same hash under v0.2 and 7b and instruct, and 7b instruct v02 q4_0. That means all of these are aliases for the same file. And that's a 7 billion parameter model, which is the instruct variant. It's version 0.2 and is quantized to 4 bits. There's a lot packed into that name. Models tend to get smarter and also slower as the number of parameters go up. 7 billion parameters is pretty good, but 7 billion 32-bit numbers will take 28 gigabytes of RAM. And most of us don't have cards that work with that. So quantization is this seemingly magic process that reduces the precision of the numbers to 4 bits in this case. And that's what the Q4 at the end means, quantized to 4 bits. So that means it'll fit in about 3.5 gigabytes of VRAM. Your OS and other software need some memory as well, so we usually say 7B takes about 7 gigabytes of VRAM, but that's super rough guidance. 4-bit quantization is the size that most default to. It tends to perform the best in terms of speed versus every other size, and it does a really good job. It's actually pretty hard to see much difference between that and the original model. The instruct in the middle of the name means that it's been fine-tuned to respond well in a chat versus a text or base model that completes whatever you're saying. Now the model should be downloaded, so you can run it with Ollama run Mistral. This drops you into the prompt, or REPL. REPL is usually associated with programming tools. It stands for Read, Evaluate, Print, Loop. And it's an interactive place to play with commands in the language. Now that you're in the Ollama REPL, ask the model a question. Why is the sky blue? And pretty quickly we get an answer. Now notice how it's streaming out one word at a time. This is how these models work. They figure out what is most probably going to be the next word. When they start, they don't know what the end is going to be until they reach it, which is a lot like how we think and how we speak. Let's say you want to have a model that always explains complex topics like you're 5 years old. An easy way to do this is to create a new model. A model, as we saw before, is a combination of the weights file with parameters, a template, and maybe a system prompt. So let's set a new system prompt. In the REPL, type /set system. The user will provide a concept. Explain the concept in an easy-to-understand manner so that even a 5-year-old child can understand it. Now type /save like I'm 5. Now type /by, or you can press Ctrl D. To launch our new model, type Ollama run like I'm 5. Now type any complicated concept. Let's try quantum physics. And we get an answer that maybe some 5-year-olds might understand. Press the up arrow to go to the previous entry and press enter again. Notice that it's a little different. Try that again. It's different again. Models are always trying to figure out the most probable next word, and often it ends up with different sentences to explain a topic. If you need something that responds the same way every single time, large language models are not the way to go. So now you've created a new model and learned a little more about how models work. At this point, you can find new models to try and find the ones right for you. But watch out, some of them can be really, really big. If you have a slow connection, make sure to use the Ollama_no_prune environment variable. Otherwise, Ollama prunes all the disconnected and half-downloaded files each time the service is restarted, such as when your machine reboots. I have a few videos on my channel about setting environment variables, and there's a good section in the FAQ about doing it right. If you have a model you want to remove, just use the command Ollama rm and then the model name to remove it. Now you should know everything you need to know about how Ollama works, or at least enough to get started with. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or join us on the Discord at discord.gg/Ollama. If you really want to try out some of the GUIs for Ollama, go to ollama.com, then click on the link at the top for GitHub. Now scroll all the way down to the bottom to find the web and desktop community integrations. There are so many to choose from, and there are even more you might find elsewhere on the web. Thanks so much for being here. Goodbye.